What up, my fellow dorks? It is the Turtle Dork back with a new recap and review. We are done with season 2. This is the beginning of season 3, episode 1. Okay, I'm gonna try it. Valar Dohaeris. Dohaeris. Directed by Daniel Minahan. I'm all over the place. Anyway, I'm the Turtle Dork. This is the Disco Dork. We about to break this down. The season opener for season 3. Well, we left off at the end of season 2 with the White Walkers. So we open up. Normally, I think every season opener has a cold opening. So this episode had a cold opening with Sam. And he gets attacked. He sees one of his crows dead, his head chopped off, and in the distance, and I kind of joked that it's so cold you can actually see the wind. It's fucking crazy. Anyway, but Sam gets attacked by a White Walker, and then ultimately Ghost comes. He's Jon Snow's direwolf. Comes and saves Sam, and then the other crows comes. Lord Commander Mormont comes with the fire and saves Sam, and he asks him, did you send out the ravens? And Sam shamefully admits that he didn't do it, and he's like, yeah, one job,
bruh.
Yeah, one job.
Send the fucking birds.
So I thought that was a really good opening. Like you said, when this show airs, when it originally aired, like you said, you have to wait a whole year. So to open up right where you left off a year later and to see that, like I said, just kind of remind us.
Yeah, and really the purpose of that scene was to establish that. So, like you said, at the end of last season, we see the presence of the White Walkers, their army. We see probably, it's just the tip of the spear that we see. And what Mormont says at the end of this particular scene is like, we got to head back to the wall. We got to warn everybody. So now, at least on their end, they're believers now. Like, all right, the shit's coming. Something's coming. And we got to go prepare and fortify. So we've upped the stakes in regards to the threat north of the wall and its relation to stuff that's going on south of the wall and people don't even care about. Yeah. So now they're, the shit's got real.
Shit's getting real.
Yeah.
So we stay north of the wall. Jon Snow, when he meets Mance Rayder, and we also get introduced to Tormund.
Your boy.
I like this dude, man. I want to see, rewatching this, if my feelings about certain characters and certain episodes kind of stays the same. And I just thought it was a great introduction.
It's cool because they play that scene like that's Mance Rayder.
Exactly.
And the way Tormund is shot, like just the way he's written, like his whole attitude, his demeanor. Like if you didn't know, you'd be like, all right, this dude is the leader because he just has that je ne sais quoi. He has that quality, right?
Yeah, he does.
And he does a bit of ribbing to Jon Snow before we actually introduced to the real to Mance Rayder.
Yeah, played by I always forget.
Syrian Hines.
Syrian Hines.
Yeah.
Soft C, not a hard C.
Okay.
I think I always get Syrian, because Cillian Murphy, I never know. Anyway, you guys let me know. Is it Killian, Syrian? I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, I thought that was a great scene. And then also when they tried to kind of interrogate him, like, okay, why do you want to be a wildling? Like, why, like, you're Ned Stark's bastard son. Is like, you made this oath, and now you're looked at as a traitor. But he's not sold on it yet. Yeah. And I like the fact that he tells that story about what happened at Craster's place, seeing the White Walker, and then that kind of gets him in good with the wildlings. Yeah. So I thought that was a really good scene. I think really what it was,
because it was like it was. He's saying that, you were one of the Night's Watch, you're a crow, and so now you're going to turn on your brothers, you're a traitor. And he says, well, if I'm a traitor, if that makes me a traitor, then that makes you a traitor, because he was previously of the Night's Watch as well.
Exactly.
And so I think that, in addition to the reason, saying I want to fight for the side that fights for the living.
Yes.
I think that, but also the fact that, Mance sees that as at a lower position as Jon is, he's still not afraid to speak his mind and stand up to him. So that quality he admires in him as well.
He admires that because the wildlings, their whole thing is about being free. And I think in that moment you could see that Jon is showing that he's free, like separating himself from the crows and everything else.
Yeah, and he's a free speaker and free thinker.
Exactly. Next thing I have, Tyrion and Cersei meeting about their talk about meeting with Tywin, because Tyrion wants to have this meeting with his father, and so this is the first time that they've interacted since the Battle of Blackwater, where where Tyrion kind of finds out that Cersei basically tried to have him killed. So there's a little back and forth between them. So I just thought that was interesting.
Well, you made an interesting point too, because at this point, Tyrion has the title of Hand stripped from him. Yeah. His quarters have been taken from him. He's in a small cell that people keep making dumbass jokes about, and him not needing a lot of space because he's a small person and shit. But you remarked about his something that was mentioned on the commentary on the previous episode about how his very rapid fall from grace.
Yeah, it literally happened overnight.
Yeah, and to see him, because prior to all of this, prior to the Battle at Blackwater, he was handed the king. He was in command. He was just in a much better place all around. Yeah. And then after this battle, and the tragedy of it is that this wasn't a battle that he lost. He's almost in the same, at the very least, emotional place as Stannis. Like Stannis lost the battle and is feeling like, I was on the top of the world the other day, and now I've been knocked down, several notches. And Tyrion's the same way. Like just yesterday, he was up here, and like today he's here. But Tyrion won the battle. And still, like you say, like having the king, the hand of the king taken from him, being put into like this little cell, his face is slashed. All this stuff is just like overnight. All that stuff just taken away from him. So the next thing I want to get to, Bronn. It's a small little scene between him and Tyrion, because now he feels that there's a lot of people in King's Landing that's out to get him, that's out to kill him. Yeah. And so Bronn is like, okay. Tyrion tells him, like you're a knight, you're a commander of the City Watch. He's like, look, I need you here to protect me. He's like, okay, well, we need to negotiate the terms of our agreement. Renegotiate.
We need to renegotiate that. And they're friends, but like you say, he's still a sellsword and he's selling his sword. So he's like, look, I just thought that was a really, really nice little banter back and forth between the two of them. Yeah. So, just showing us how much we love Bronn as a character. Yeah. Let's get to Davos. He gets saved by the pirates. I wrote his name down. Salador's. I can't read my own damn handwriting. Salador San. Yeah. Salador San. So I want to get to the conversation between Salador San and Davos on the pirate ship, where he's talking about Stannis. And I said it again. Stannis.
You want Thanos to be in this show so fucking bad, don't you?
Endgame is coming, man. Endgame is coming. Anyway, Stannis and Melisandre and how they're burning on Dragonstone. They're burning some of the prisoners, and how she just has this hold over Stannis. And Davos is just saying, "Look, I need you to take me back to not King's Landing, back to Dragonstone, so that he can confront Stannis and let him know the truth.
He wants to, so he can kill. He wants the Red Woman.
Yeah, basically, he's at the point now. He's like, look, I need to kill this lady. Like, she's corrupting Stannis, and it's just not a good look. But I like that moment. And there's just some quiet moments, him reflecting on the fact of him being a father, how he lost his son in battle. I just thought this was a really, really good scene with Davos. And just seeing, again, we talk about where Tyrion was at the end of Blackwater and where he is, and then just seeing Davos being blown off that ship and how long he's been at sea and being stranded out there.
Yeah, he was shipwrecked for a while because you can tell by his wounds and stuff like that. But also prior to that, when we see Tyrion with Cersei, Tyrion's wounds have healed substantially since the last time we saw him, when they were more open and swollen and stuff like that. But now they're a lot more healed, which means there's been a substantial amount of time that has passed, which means Davos has been, because when we cut to him in this episode, he's Tom Hanks on the Rock. Like, Wilson.
He's Castaway.
Yeah. So you can tell he's been shipwrecked for a while.
Yeah. So, and it was a little bit of confusion. And guys, if you watch this video, please comment, let us know. Rob
and gals,
guys and gals. Rob, I don't know. Was he? Because we were talking about it. I don't know if he was at Harrenhal or if he went back to Winterfell, but they basically go back and they see that all the people in this village are slaughtered. Now, I'm thinking because of what happened when Theon and all the people from the Sea Bitch took him and we saw Winterfell burning.
Yeah.
I assume that that's where we saw Rob coming back to. But you mentioned, I think, and I even noticed this, when you look at the outside, it had more of a tall structure, which we don't see that in Winterfell. Those tall structures are more suited for Harrenhal, but I just don't remember why or when the people of Harrenhal got slaughtered. Because the last time we were there is when Arya, Gendry, and Hot Pie left.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit confused.
And also previously, Joffrey awarded
Harrenhal to
Peter Baelish. So
yeah.
If that was Harrenhal, like that was a real dick move. I'm gonna give you Harrenhal. If it's got like thousands of dead bodies in it, you probably have to clean up and shit when you get there. But it's a fixer-upper.
Yeah, absolutely. So I thought that was interesting to see that because we also get a scene with his name is Rickard Karstark, the guy whose son was killed by Jaime. Him and Bolton are there, and this is also where Rob takes his mother as a prisoner. He says, find her chambers that are suited enough for a cell. And his new wife Talisa says, look, that's your mother. But again, it goes back to the fact that she let Jaime go. And then this confliction between these so-called betrayals between families, but the reasoning behind why they did this, I find that to be fascinating. But just a little confused. So if you guys know exactly where that place was, definitely let us know. This is a big scene, man. I mentioned this, so let's get into this. Tywin and Tyrion. The meeting that they had.
I want to preface this conversation with the scene that we talked about between Cersei and Tyrion. So when Cersei comes to Tyrion's chambers, when we first see him again, she really wants to know. She knows that Tyrion has a meeting scheduled with her father.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So she wants to know, like, what are you planning to talk about? Because she's on her end, she's afraid Tyrion's going to go in there and say, hey, there's Jaime and Cersei have been fucking, and Joffrey is their kid, and he's not the right way.
Yeah.
So she's worried about that. She's spun up about that, and Tyrion knows that.
I was gonna say, does Tyrion know that?
Yeah,
okay.
He's not. He knows why she's he knows why she's afraid.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So fast forward to the meeting between Tywin and Tyrion, and that doesn't even come up.
No, this is about something completely different.
Right.
Yeah.
He's got other things on his mind, and rightfully so, because he could go in and talk to him about that, but the matter at hand is something that is so recent and fresh. Like they just had the Battle of Blackwater, the victory at Blackwater, in which Tyrion is directly responsible for.
Yeah.
And Tyrion is pleading to his father, firstly, at least a little gratitude.
Yeah. Basically,
Instead of being stripped of my title and, put in a cell.
Yeah.
Basically, I at least want some gratitude. But outside of that, I'm rightfully owed Casterly Rock.
Exactly.
And that conversation basically falls on deaf ears. And you really get to see the true nature of Tywin and his disdain for Tyrion. And this is the first, in retrospect, knowing what Tyrion does to Tywin, to me, this is the moment where I can see, okay, I understand, like, his demise, I see it directly correlated with what is being exposed right here. Tywin there's no way Tywin is ever going to view Tyrion as a son. There's no way he's ever going to give him his just dues. There's no other way for that relationship was going to end.
Yeah, it's just sad to watch how when this conversation kind of gets to him feeling like he's the rightful heir, because Jaime's his firstborn, but because he's a Kingsguard, he's sworn to the king.
Yeah.
So the Tyrion becomes the rightful heir to Casterly Rock, and he wants what he feels is owed to him. And the way Tywin, I can't pronounce today, Tywin talks to Tyrion, especially when we get towards the end of the scene and his true feelings about his son comes out. Now, I mean, I think he loves his son only because the fact that he is a Lannister, and I think Tywin.
He doesn't love his son. He doesn't love him.
Well, maybe that's the wrong wording, but I think what Tywin is more concerned about is protecting the legacy of the name.
Tywin tolerates Tyrion.
He tolerates him, but he's
Barely.
but he wants to protect the legacy of the Lannister name. But he says, look, you've had whores in my bed while I was gone. He's like, I'm not going to let you turn Casterly Rock into a whorehouse. And I mean, it just shows you, because while Tywin's been gone, we've seen the growth of Tyrion just over these last two scenes. And the fact that when he has this conversation with his father, and his father just sees him in the same way that maybe we would have saw Tyrion in those first couple of episodes from season 1, just shows you that his father, I mean, it goes back to
he's
just
out
what
of touch.
we see. He's out of touch. Just like in life in general, like when you grow as a human being and you want to show people around you the growth that you've had, and people don't acknowledge that or see that, it could be disappointing, and it could be a little bit soul crushing as well, especially when it comes from a parent. But the way he just attacks him, and then we see, again, going with Cersei, the whole thing with how they blame Tyrion for the death of their mother. And so when Tywin acknowledges that, you can just see how hurtful that is to him. And when when Tyrion leaves, I love how when Tywin says like something about don't have any more whores, and then he just turns
he says the next whore I find in your bed, I'll have him hang. He didn't even let him finish that.
He didn't let him finish saying. He was like, yeah, one more thing. And he turns to listen, and once Tywin starts to even start that phrase, Tyrion just keeps walking. So you just see that relationship and how separate and how far apart they are. And I mentioned like where we are with Tyrion now going into season 8. I want to see Tyrion succeed. I want to see him get his just dues and what he's deserved in this show. Just based on this scene right here, it was heartbreaking.
It would be so tragic. Granted, because it'll also be sad because he's my favorite character. But for the character, not as for a fan or whatever, as a watching, but for the character, it would be so tragic if Tyrion, by the end of this final season, meets his demise without getting any of these things, because of all the stuff he's gone through, but all the stuff that he's done and accomplished and helped for other people, and all the things that he's genuinely owed. It would be really tragic if at the end of this series he isn't the lord of some place, he isn't the ruler of somewhere, he isn't given the things that he deserves. Absolutely. Let's
jump a little bit quickly about Sansa and Baelish. So Sansa and Shay are out there, and they're playing the little game, that looking at the ships and trying to create a story, as far as like, where's that ship going, and if we were on there, where would it take us, and blah blah this and that. So Baelish comes up, and he takes Sansa to the end of that pier, and they're talking about as far as like trying to get Sansa out of King's Landing and taking her back home to Winterfell.
So this is a continuation sort of a conversation that they had in the last episode when Joffrey says, all right, I'm going to take Marjorie, Sansa, whatever, and Peter approaches her at that moment. How do you juxtapose that, how that conversation went and ended, and where she was like, I'm going to stay here in King's Landing, with how the conversation goes this time? What were your thoughts about that?
Well, I think they're a little bit more honest with each other, because he points to the fact that she's not a good liar, and because she says King's Landing is my home, but he knows, because he mentions that he saw her mother So, that makes her like, okay, like, how can we do this? How can you get me out of here?
Yeah.
But he lies again because he says that he saw Arya, which he hasn't.
Oh, yeah.
And because Sansa says so, Arya's alive. And again, Peter Baelish, like you said, everyone around her is a liar. So he's lying. He's playing the game. But I feel like Sansa's getting to that point where it's just like, look, if there's a way for me to get out of here and you can help me, let me know what I need to do because I need to get back to my family. So I think we're kind of at that point, which she kind of falls into Peter's hands a little bit. And, Peter kind of has Sansa right where I think he wants her, which is not really a good place because we see the scene with Shay and the other girl, which I can't remember her name. And they're talking back there, and they're saying like, be careful of Baelish. And she was like, yeah, but it's like,
well, even before that, they have a really interesting, dialogue about
where they
Baelish is. I gotta get her name, but she's recognizing a similarity between her and Shay, and women like us who come from basically, I know where you come from and how you've gotten here, so to speak. We're in this. I can relate to you, and we got to stick together. But more importantly, you need to watch out for her. Talking about Sansa.
Yeah, and watch out with her.
And Shay was like, I always do watch out for her. She's like, no, watch out for her with Peter.
Yeah.
And it was a really good scene.
Yeah, that was really good.
Because it's cool too. Because now I'm paying attention to her a lot more. The Peter's assistant because of the previous scene when with Varys, Varys goes to basically try to recruit her or whatever.
So that was a really good scene. Let's get to this one too. This is another big one. Davos, when he gets back to Dragonstone and meets up with Stannis and Melisandre.
So I remarked about how long Stannis was shipwrecked. I mean, not Stannis. Davos was shipwrecked. In relation to Tyrion's wounds, right? He was gone for a while.
Yeah.
Take that into account. The fact that, in regards to Stannis, Davos, that's your man. You ain't seen him in like a long time.
Can't even greet him.
You don't even know if you thought you didn't know if he was dead or alive, whatever.
Yeah.
You didn't even you didn't send for him. You didn't check him for him. And then when this guy is loyal to. He in the scene when Davos gets picked up, we didn't talk about this, but I took note of it. In the scene when Davos gets picked up off the rock, he's approached by he's approached by a smaller boat from the larger boat, right?
Yeah, that's
and
right.
And he says, "Hey, I was a knight. I was in the Battle of Blackwater."
Yeah.
And the guy that has the boat is one dude with a trident, and he's like, "Well, what king do you serve?"
And he's hesitant to say to make sure he says the right.
But here's the thing: it wasn't even a thing of saying the right or wrong name. The to me, what stuck out about that scene again is Davos's loyalty
because he was always.
If he says the wrong name, he could be killed, taken prisoner, or whatever.
So he was willing to risk his life.
He was willing to risk his life, saying the one true king, Stannis Baratheon. He says it, and he puts his life on the line, not in a situation of battle or whatever, but. Is a potential for me to get off this rock, get rescued, and live the rest of my life out. But I'm still willing to sacrifice my life, to say his name. Yeah, and I thought that was tremendous. And so then, when we get to this scene, somebody who was willing to do that, and he comes back home. You're not even excited to see homeboy. You didn't even stand up and say, "Hey, he's looking out, out at the outside." Davos walks in behind him. He turns around. He gives him that shit right there.
He turns back. Can you give him a head nod? He don't get anything. He don't get nothing.
Like, damn dog, welcome back. Like none of that shit. Like
nothing.
That was hard, but that just goes to show how much influence at this point Melisandre has over Stannis.
And it's interesting too because Melisandre does a great job of manipulating the whole situation because. The conversation in the earlier episode in season 2 when he was when Davos told Stannis like, look, Melisandre, don't bring her to this battle, and Stannis agreed. He was like, okay, I'll agree not to bring her, but I need you to man these ships. And it was like, okay, and Melisandre throws that back to Davos. It was like, look, you guys lost this battle, but remember, you told him not to bring me there.
So basically, you lost because I wasn't there.
You lost because I wasn't there. And Stannis, she's getting into Stannis' head. And
and you can see on Davos's face, like, it's kind of hard to argue that. I mean, he could, but he sees
exactly
what that looks like from an outside perspective. He's like, fuck, man.
Exactly. And there's nothing he can do to combat that. So at this point, I feel bad for him because now he's about to get imprisoned into one of these cells, and they called him one of the, what was the name? Darkness?
Servants of Darkness.
Servants of Darkness. And because...
and everyone that she deems a servant of darkness, she's burning them alive.
Yeah, she's burning them alive. And this is going to get to a point, which I think later in the seasons when we get to Stannis' daughter.
Oh shit, that's right.
We'll get to that. Marjorie, speaking with the commoners. I thought this was... Marjorie's politicking. I like her character, man.
You know what the cool thing about this show is that they do so much character work without dialogue, a lot of action. So the scene starts with Joffrey and his little royal caravan are going through the market. They're being they're in these little carts. And they're going through a market, and they suddenly stop, and Joffrey.
He's like, wait.
He's flashback to the last time he went through the town, and that shit did not go well.
Yeah.
So of course he's on guard, and he's like, "What? Why are we stopping for?" He looks out the back, and he sees Marjorie get out of her carriage and go into an orphanage. So prior to that happening, when they're showing the streets, just to establish just how filthy the slums are, right?
Yeah.
There's people pouring trash out and shit on the sidewalk, and there's this huge puddle of waste at the opening of the orphanage, and Marjorie's handmaiden is like, you'll ruin your dress. Oh, wait, this is filthy, basically. And she says, I have others, and she walks, she drags her dress through the filth and goes into the orphanage. And to me, what I took from that is, I see that everything that I see and listen to as far as Marjorie during this rewatch goes back to that moment between her and Peter. You want to be a queen, and she says, I want to be the queen. So when I see her do that, it just drives home she's willing to do anything to be the queen. And granted, it might be to us as something little as her walking through a puddle, but in those times within the context of the show, like, that's a big deal, right? And for her to she's campaigning hard as shit right now.
And that's the way, and that's what I look at it. I mean, she's politicking, she's campaigning because you know that you have to get the commoners. I mean, they're in the market, I think Cersei referred to as flea bottom. And she's talking to some of the orphans, and she's talking to them about their parents and how some of them were soldiers and fighting in the battles, and some of them lost their lives.
She's winning the hearts and minds.
Exactly. And she understands that you have to get the common people of King's Landing on your side. You have to be in their good graces, because then that will help you further along, especially with the image. It's all about like the image that you portray, and especially for somebody like Joffrey and how people see Joffrey.
She's trying to do damage. She's trying to clean up his image. Exactly.
Especially from the last time he walked through Flea Bottom and what happened, and going to the scene where Loras and Marjorie are having dinner with them because
Cersei and Joffrey.
Yeah, Cersei mentions all that stuff about the last time that they had to walk through there, and you juxtapose that with what Marjorie did in that prior scene to the dinner. It just shows you, like you said, she's trying to clean up that image. She's trying to campaign so that people can see the highborn or the hired people of King's Landing in a different way to get them on their side. So I like what Marjorie is doing. I mean, whether she's doing it just for the sake of image, or I mean, we see it in politics in our own real world stuff. I just thought it was really, really fascinating to see that. But I like her character, and I like how she's going about doing that. So 2 more points. So we got Dany and the Unsullied Army.
Oh man.
And also we get the introduction of Missandei.
Yeah.
Badass Missandei.
Yep.
Anyway, so she's talking with the guy. I guess I don't know. I can't remember who that gentleman is, but he's speaking in Valerian, and he's basically trying to sell Daenerys on the Unsullied army and why she should purchase them and whatnot. And so Missandei is basically translating back and forth. And so we're establishing that this guy doesn't really respect Dany in no way, shape, or form, because he's basically talking to her in a very demeaning way. But Missandei, as a woman herself, is relaying this in a very respectful way. But we'll get to the fact that Dany knows everything this guy is saying and how that's going to play out.
Well, I thought was interesting, again, this is the benefit of hindsight or a rewatch.
Yeah.
First time you watch this and you see this scene play out, and Daenerys is in this foreign land with these strangers, surrounded by this strange army, and this guy is talking in a strange tongue. Yeah. And the subtitles are showing him saying some very crass things.
Exactly. But
Melisandre is not translate. She's dressing it up very nicely. But when he's saying the bad stuff, when you look at Daenerys' face, initially it looks like she's just taken aback by her surroundings and this strange place. But when she's reacting to the horrible shit he's saying, and you can see it on her face, and it's cool knowing that she knows, because now her facial expressions play differently.
Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. So so he's kind of explaining the Unsullied army and how they don't fear death, and he cuts one of the soldiers' nipples off.
Hey, I forgot how hard the Unsullied were. Them dudes gangster shit. Dude. Like that dude, he winced, he didn't cry. That motherfucker said, "Thank you for letting me serve you." Like, bruh, he just cut your titty off. Like, you got a free scream you can redeem right now, because damn, that shit's hard.
Oh yeah. So can you imagine?
No, I can't imagine.
No, not that. But I'm saying, like, Dany's got the Unsullied and the Dothraki behind her. Dude. Man. Dude. Them the cats I want behind me when I'm going to wars, for real. Dude. So now we're in the commonplace of, I can't remember the area that the Unsullied army is at. I don't know what village this is, but we get she gets attacked by a warlock. This is a little girl from last season, so it's one of the warlocks because she's got the blue lips and the blue mouth. And there's a scorpion. It's this ball that this little girl has. And there's a guy in a cloak that we don't see his face, and he's coming up behind Jorah and Dany as they're kind of walking through this commonplace area and talking to a lot of the children there. And so we think that this guy in this cloak is about to attack Dany, but what we come to find out is that one of the little girls is part of the warlocks that we saw from what was the name of it? Karth. From Karth. And she has this little ball that opens up, and it's a scorpion is about to attack Dany. Then the guy in the cloak actually comes to save her, so he kills the scorpion, and he reveals himself to be the character, I wrote it down, Barristan Selmy, who I didn't realize, and this is the benefit about having this rewatch. He was part of the Kingsguard for Robert Baratheon that got let go by Joffrey when Robert died and Joffrey became king. He wanted to continue to serve as Kingsguard for Joffrey, and Joffrey basically relinquished him of his duties because he just felt like he was too old and whatever the case is. So he took his armor off and said, basically, fuck you, I'm out. And I didn't realize that Selmy was part of the Kingsguard for the Mad King. So I'm assuming when Robert Baratheon overthrew the Mad King, he basically surrendered himself to become part of the Kingsguard for Robert Baratheon. And now that since he is a free man, he wants to come back into good graces and serve for the rightful queen of King's Landing, of the Seven Realms. And I just thought it was a great scene to see him come back into the fold.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's it. That's season opener, man.
It was a good episode. It's putting a lot of chess pieces in place for some things that are gonna, happen in this season that are gonna be really profound. And it's cool that in this moment, like she is in that place. Daenerys is in this place to acquire an army, but we see her starting to get the things that she needs to get the throne. So she's got her one ship. She had to do a lot to get her. She's got her dragons. She's got her one ship. She's at the place now to try to broker this army, but also she has someone who will turn out to be trustworthy and loyal.
Exactly.
At her side, in addition to Jorah, friend zone god, and so now she's met Misandry, who will soon also be brought into the fold. So all these things are being put in place. Everything coming together for Dany.
Yeah. Like I said, and the way we see her acquire this unsullied army, we'll get to that. I'm so excited for that episode, that moment. Things are starting to come together for her to really kind of do what she needs to do to head towards King's Landing and try to get that throne. Man, episode 1, season 3. We are on season 3, Valar Dohaeris. Which means all men must serve. So if you recognize the season finale of season 2 was Valar Morghulis, all men must die. So the response to that is all men must serve. So I think that was interesting to have the season opener for that. Definitely let us know what you thought of this episode. Let's keep the conversation going in the comments below. Let us know what you think of this episode and this season moving forward. Remember to rate, like, subscribe, and share. And remember to check out our other dorks at MouthDork, at WB Dash, at Sidewalk Siren. Check out the podcast at ItModcast. I am the Turtle Dork. This guy is the
DiscoDork.
The DiscoDork.
Happy Black History Month, brother.
Happy Black History Month, man. That's right.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Power to the people. And we're out.